Where's Dinah?
Dinah!
Dinah, stand up. Let's give a big round of applause to Dinah. I got to tell you a little bit of story about her. Come on up here. So I was running for governor, and that didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but the thing that worked out well is I met a couple of young ladies who were Democrats at the time, Dinah and Stella, and they began to knock doors for me in the South Valley. If you're knocking doors for a Republican in the South Valley, you probably should have gone to another level of school. They're like me. They graduated somewhere toward the bottom if you're knocking doors for a Republican in the South Valley. I tell people if it hadn't been for me, there wouldn't have been a top half of the class. But Dinah and Stella were both Democrats, finished out that campaign, kept coming around, and when we started running the party, Dinah and Stella volunteered. But they had both registered as Republicans in January of that year, and so she's actually a pretty new Republican putting this thing together. Big round of applause for Dinah. All right. Woo! Now, I'll tell you, if you want somebody to speak the truth, she will speak the truth, and that's what we need in the Republican Party. Now, the Democrats are trying to get it to where we as Republicans are embarrassed about the flag. I ain't embarrassed about the flag, and I'm not embarrassed to wear the red that the Republicans have. We're going to fight to the finish because this state is worth fighting to the finish. It's been 90 years since Republicans had control of all three branches here. And the other side would say, well, you had the governor and you didn't do anything. I'm sorry, you can't do anything without the legislature. You can veto bills, but you can't pass bills as a governor. All you can do is sign them or veto them. And so they've owned all three branches for 90 years. They own the crime here in Albuquerque. And by the way, it has set a new record already. The crime in Albuquerque has set a new record for murders already, and they still got 4 months left to go. Also, they own the bad economy. We have our young people leaving the state, the most valuable resource that we can have, and they're being exported to another state because they got no opportunity here. That's because the Democrats have been in charge. You know where they're going? They're going to South Dakota. I talked to Christy Noem. She said we got kids from all over the Democrat states coming here. They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida. I know Ron DeSantis. I know the governor of Texas. All of them are bringing our people here. If you don't have the next generation, what you got to look forward to? I'm telling you, we must reverse that flow. But another thing is we have to stand for our constitutional rights, and that's what the Republicans stand for. We stand for faith, freedom, and family. Faith, freedom, family are the core values. I was just talking to the guys back here in the lowrider club. You see the cars jacked up? That's not your typical Republican audience. And they said we do it for family. We want to keep our kids off the streets down in the South Valley. We want to keep our kids part of our family. And so they understand our values, and they're out here today. If we as Republicans would get outside our comfort zone, then we'd start winning. I tell people the only way to win as a Republican is that you have to go where they hate you, and you got to stay till they like you. It's that simple, and it's that hard. If we're going to win as Republicans, we have to get into neighborhoods where they reject us, and they have to hear who you are and what you're about. If you will do that, they realize that you don't hate them. They realize that they agree with you. They agree, and they register as Republicans. This past 2-year cycle, we did some pretty dramatic things. They kind of got lost in all of the things of the election. But we registered 30,000 new Republicans in the last 2 years. That was the most ever that were registered as Republicans, the first time ever that we beat the Democrats. And so understand that nationwide we only registered 300,000 new Republicans. In New Mexico we had 10%. We don't even have 1% of the nationwide population, and yet we were able to register 10%. That's what we did as Republicans because we focused on it and we talked to our neighbors. Now keep in mind your neighbors are not going to choose to vote as Republican just by watching the TV ads. Their TV ads are as good as ours, and so nobody gets swayed by that. People get swayed by you. They get swayed by you talking to them, the power. It's the reason that in the Bible it talks about in the beginning was the Word. It's you and I have the ability to talk to people. When they hear you talking and they see your face, they realize that you don't hate them, that you actually agree with them, that they agree with you, and that's when we began to really take over New Mexico. But we're going to have to get outside those comfort zones, and it can't just be done by candidates. I was talking to a candidate last week in Las Cruces. He said I was knocking doors and I was changing them, but it's taking me 20 and 30 minutes. He said I was eating up my time with that. He said I should have been moving down the block. If you and I go and talk to those people first, then our candidates come along behind us, they knock doors, and then they're able to say, I represent what you just heard about from that group. So the power of you talking is the most important thing that we can do here today. The power of us standing out here and talking in public when people in Albuquerque, they think that we ought to be embarrassed to be Republicans. They think that we ought to be ashamed, and they're trying to push our voices down. I'm telling you, no, now is the time to lift your voices up. You see the chaos that they're creating worldwide. I have never seen anything like the debacle in Afghanistan. They just asked on KOAT back here a few minutes ago. I said it was worse than Saigon by far. I was in Vietnam at that period of time. It was worse than Benghazi. But you remember, Biden was in office, vice president, when Benghazi happened. They let the ambassador get killed the first time ever that one was killed like that. And then they act like it was some, video? I'm sorry, they let that happen. We had gunships that were there available to be deployed. They could have stopped it, and they didn't. I'm telling you, they gave the enemies $85 billion worth of armament in Afghanistan just now. Over 300,000 assault rifles, thousands of M50 machine guns. They gave them 20 million rounds of ammunition. They gave them 20 million rounds of ammunition, and that is those bullets are going to be fired at our friends, at us. They are able now to operate from a whole nation, from Afghanistan, and they will be exporting terror that you and I can't even imagine. The Chinese, I'm sure, are waiting to get their hands on 33 Black Hawk helicopters, the latest technology. And that was all stuff that Biden walked away from and gave to the communists there. It is the worst geopolitical thing that's happened probably in 2 or 3 generations. And we're going to have to fight those weapons and those terrorists now because they turned them over. But the press was asking, what are we doing out here today? We're doing one thing out here today. We're convincing people that if you want to change in the crime, if you want to change in the jobs, if you want to change in your future, if you want to change in your schools, you're going to have to vote red. You're going to have to vote Republican. 90 years of control under Democrats, we know what they bring. They're going to bring us more of it. I see where they introduced a couple of crime bills now in the legislature. Susanna tried for 8 years to get them focused on crime, and they wouldn't do a thing. And now they don't care to do anything about crime. They just want the bills where they can tell you they're doing it. We're onto their game. We're not buying the crap that they're selling, and we're going to vote Republican, and we're going to get out. We're going to register friends of ours who are Democrats. We're going to register people who are not registered at all. We're going to be knocking doors. In the last 2 years leading up to this last election, we knocked 1 million doors here in New Mexico, the Republican Party did. We made 2 million phone calls. We did that with a core of 1,500 volunteers, 400 every weekend working so you didn't wear your volunteers out. We did all of that with people here in this state. I will tell you that if we will keep our head up, keep our chin up, looking into the future. We got down, I will tell you the truth, I got a little down after the last election like you too. I was angry, I was frustrated, I was scared at where it was going. But in politics, I understand one thing. When you're up, you're never as far up as you think you are. And when you're down, you're never as far down as you think you are. And so if we will keep that in mind as we go into this 2-year cycle here, if we keep that in mind, if we get our friends to show up to vote, if we're out knocking doors and registering, if we believe in what we're doing and we're talking to our friends at church and at the school, if we're talking to our families who don't agree with us, if we're explaining patiently what the conservative values are, faith, family, freedom, then I will guarantee you that we're going to do tremendously well in this coming election. They've already had a couple of watershed moments in the nation. Down in McAllen, Texas, 85% Democrat, 85% Hispanic. It was the seat of where they wanted to take over Texas. Democrats spent $400 million in this last election cycle trying to take over the state legislature in Texas. They didn't take a single seat with $400 million. But then this special election came along about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and for the first time in their history, McAllen, Texas, elected a Republican as mayor. I will tell you that that sent shockwaves through Washington. It sent shockwaves through the Democrat Party. But then just about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, we had in Connecticut, we had a state Senate seat. That state Senate seat voted 27 points for Biden 6 months ago, 8 months ago. It just elected a Republican into the state Senate in a special election. I will tell you that the watershed moment is here. It just takes us to believe it. It takes us to work it. It takes us out there. You've got great candidates coming up here to speak. I want you to support your candidate. I don't care who you get behind, because if we'll get behind our people, and after the primary, if all our candidates come together, we are going to elect Republicans for the first time in a long time here. We're going to control the House of Representatives, and we're going to get that evil lady out of Santa Fe. She should not be governor anywhere, especially here. We're going to get rid of her. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Keep it up.
Give it up for Steve Pearce. Yeah. Goodness. That was a beautiful segment, Mr. Pearce. All right, so now our next speaker we have is Tim Walsh. All right, put your hands together for Tim Walsh.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name's Tim Walsh. I'm running for governor because all New Mexicans deserve liberty, and all New Mexicans deserve opportunity. I'm going to talk to you about two of my initiatives. I'm going to stay under the 5-minute limit. I appreciate the upstanding rally speech that Mr. Chairman Steve Pearce gave, and I think we should give him another round of applause.
See if I can do this without messing up the recording.
I'm the founder of Trident Tuition Funds, a non-profit organization, a charitable organization that partnered with the Navy SEAL Museum in Fort Pearce. We started 2 years ago. My wife and I decided we wanted to do something for the families of the naval warfare families, the SEALs and the groups that support the SEALs. We were thinking about one scholarship. Then I remembered school choice, because I worked with Governor Johnson for 4 years. In fact, I spent more time in that office than the current executive, if that's what I should call her, a small e. I'm not the prettiest, I'm not the smartest, but I am the most experienced. I took that school choice idea. We provided scholarships for preschool, private preschool, K through 12, internationally. Last year, we had 147 scholarships that we provided those families. Vouchers, a private voucher program, $350,000 worth of scholarships. If you want to be more involved, you can visit their website.